Can you be arrested in America if you have a warrant in Mexico for a legal matter, for a crime? A lot of customers for Justicia Transparente ask about that question. In most of the cases, people who live in America, US citizens, comes to Mexico, comes to Tijuana, or for the beaches in Mexico like Vallarta, like Los Cabos, like Cancun. And maybe in the time when that person is in Mexico, maybe committed a crime, like a sexual crime, or maybe a firearm offense, a drug offense, any type of crime in Mexico. And that people return to America. And maybe later you can have information that maybe you have a warrant in Mexico for that crime. And then you maybe think about, okay, so the US police, the FBI, or any police officer in US can arrest me in US for that crime in Mexico? Okay, for that question, the answer is yes. But before to be arrested, first of all, the prosecutor in Mexico need to do that. So well, the first thing that needs to happen in Mexico is that you have a warrant in Mexico. And what is the legal process for that? First of all, the prosecutor needs to have proofs against you to try to convince to the judge that you are guilty for that crime. For example, sexual crime. It's not enough that the victim present his compliance in the prosecutor offices for sexual crime or another crime like smuggling, like drug offenses, and well, it's not enough. Why? Because the prosecutor needs to investigate more, okay? Needs to go for more proofs, try to get the statements for witness, and well, if the prosecutor has all that information against you, it exists the high probability that you have a warrant against you in Mexico. So it's the first requirement that the prosecutor needs to try to get an extradition against you. Second one, it's important that you know that Mexico and US has an international treatment for the extradition. So yes, it's legally the US police can arrest you for a warrant in Mexico because it cites an international treatment with Mexico and US. So yes. And second one, the crime in US and Mexico needs to be the same. I'm gonna try to explain you. If you are accused in Mexico for maybe sexual abuse in US, it's important that the penal code establish that crime. Why? Because that's the law. That's the law. In both countries, it should to excise that crime. Okay? That is the second requirement for the extradition or to try the person who lives in US is extradited to Mexico. Okay? So the third requirement is that the Mexican government needs to convince for the prosecutor in chief who is in Mexico City, because it's like a political petition. The prosecutor needs to go for the Department for Extraditions who is in Mexico City, and the prosecutor, for example in Tijuana, needs to send to Mexico City all the information against the warrant against you. Your name, the crime, and where you are. The prosecutor in Mexico needs to talk to the prosecutor department in Mexico City if they have information for where are you in US. The prosecutor needs to investigate in what part of US are you. If you are in Chicago or if you were in Los Angeles, the prosecutor needs to establish that for the prosecutor in chief in Mexico. And then the prosecutor needs to inform to the diplomatic authority in Mexico, and then that diplomatic authority is going to talk with the Interpol police in US. So when the Interpol police has the warrant against you for a crime in Mexico, the Interpol police can arrest you. Okay? So this is the third requirement. Let's talk about the fourth requirement. Obviously, you as a US citizen, you have the human right to defend you in US. So if you are arrested in US, you need to hire a US criminal attorney to defend you, because US can deny the petition for the Mexican government to extradite you to Mexico. Okay? So in that moment, you need to defend you in US. You have that human right to defend you. Okay? So that is the four moments or the four requirements that you need to know to defend you for warrants for the Mexican government against you if you live in US. Okay, in resume, the first thing that you need to know is if you have a warrant in Mexico. If you don't have a warrant in Mexico, it's impossible that the Mexican government promotes an extradition against you if you live in US. And the only way to know or to investigate if you have a warrant against you in Mexico is to promote a higher judge motion, because in Mexico, with a higher judge motion, we can know if you have a warrant in Mexico. And Justicia Transparente, my law firm, can help you with that motion in Mexico. So if you have that doubt, or if you want to know if you have a warrant in Mexico, we can help you. You can contact us in the numbers who appears below for this video or in the description further. You can see the numbers for our law firm. So remember, we are Justicia Transparente, and we are here to help you to know if you have a warrant against you. Thank you.